Well, folks, welcome back. As you can see from the title of this video, I am reading for Chris Chan again. I am burning a protection candle and a cleansing candle, and I'm burning some incense. You may see some flying past this particular camera. I did think I should address this. I really wasn't expecting anything to come out of that reading that I did earlier this year. Not anyway this quickly. I did think it was important for you to see my face. I'm not accustomed to being on camera. As you can tell, this is the first time on my channel that I'm on camera. My face is on camera. But I did think it was important to look at me while I talk about this. I always felt like taking a bath after reading about what happened. I was talking about Chris's deals, Chris's life issues with an IRL friend, and we were saying that we had thought that Christine would have gone to prison for either accidentally or deliberately taking somebody's life, right? That's what we thought would have happened. I didn't expect this at all. So let's actually get into the video. I'm going to be asking a couple of questions. I wanted to know what exactly happened to lead up to Christine abusing Barbara. I was going to do a grand tableau, a Lenormand spread for that. I was going to ask, in addition to Christine's legal issues, what other events does she have to look forward to or watch out for in the future? And last and not least, if Christine was of the mind, how could she start working on her karmic debt? So the grand tableau is perfect for, actually, let me look at this question again. Grand tableau is perfect for these kinds of questions. This is where we use all 36 Lenormand cards to do this particular spread. So I am going to shuffle until Spirit says that it is time to stop. Grand tableaus are fantastic for big overall life questions such as, what would happen if I were to start a business, for instance, or what would happen if I were to take this job, or buy this property / this house, or what should I do after graduation, after college graduation, that kind of thing. I am waiting for Spirit to give me the indication that these cards are in alignment and ready to be laid out, starting from the top. There goes one flying. And actually, Spirit is saying put that one up on the table. Ugh. Hey, look at what's first. Maybe that's not a surprise. It's the whip. We'll keep shuffling. Sometimes cards may fly out and Spirit will say either shuffle them back in or lay them out as they are. And in that case, I'm kind of not surprised that whip appears first. That's abuse, right? We are going to lay out all 36 Lenormand cards. As soon as Spirit gives the green light, Spirit says lay these out just like this. Okay. And keep in mind, this is the first row. Okay. Spirit says no more shuffling. So I'm going to take from the top and I'm going to lay out 4 rows, I believe, of, yes, 4 rows of 8, and then one last row. The cards of fate will be 4. Okay, so folks, I have laid out all 36 cards to the very best of my ability. I hope that they're all showing up on camera. I use this particular deck because it called out to me when I thought about Christine's situation, when I meditated on what was going on. I felt led towards this. It's interesting. I feel that the cards of fate have the animus influence, the more masculine influence going on here. There was some security. This question was about what led up to Christine assaulting her mother. Let's just be frank, right? What led up to this situation? I know that like Isabella Janke. I know that Isabella Janke asked Christine, hey, what happened? What led up to this? And I know that Christine said, well, I was horny and I want, like, and basically Barbara was available. I think that Christine finally sensed that Barbara was mentally and physically weaker than her and wasn't in a position to say no at the end of the day. I want to talk about her, the heart of the situation right here. We have Animus appearing next to House, and I'm feeling that Christine still took a lot of comfort and security in her sexuality, and a lot of her sexuality, unfortunately, is expressed in like the negative, more masculine sense, right? In the sense that she takes advantage of someone who is considerably weaker than her, right? She sensed an opportunity and she went for that. That's what I'm feeling here. With this is having a reckoning with her chasing stuff, the dog and the side together. That's saying, you know, like, eventually you're going to have to come to terms with the stuff that you've been pursuing. And that's absolutely what's been going on here. What led up to this situation? She had talked about having fantasies about her mom for quite some time before this. She was chasing that. And this event was a reckoning, right? Like, this was an earth-shaking event. This basically ended her life the way that she knew it. That's the heart of the situation. Her cards of fate, and again, I hope that they show up on camera. I will hold them out like this. And as you can see, these two are not good cards, right? Sex is here. I knew that sex was going to be a big part of this particular reading. I'm not surprised to see them appear in her cards of fate, especially when we ask, you know, what led up to this situation. We just discussed in my January video about how Christine has a tendency towards deception and fraud, and that's what I'm seeing here with the snake card, together with the sexuality card, together with destruction. I want you to think about mice burrowing into your home, eating your Christmas ornaments, eating your pictures that you've got up in the attic. It's a slow and gradual destruction that we're talking about here. But this was a cycle. This tells me that this had been going on, as we had kind of suspected. This had been going on for a while. that this was a cycle that was quite possibly going to be next to impossible to break out of for Christine without some serious help. There was some serious destruction leading up to information coming out. That's the heart of the situation. Here are the cards of fate. I want to look up at some of the rows that we have going on here. So this is such an important part of this particular spread because Christine has so much security still in expressing like the negative aspect of her sexuality, right? This would be in her past. Now this is interesting. I see secrets coming up in childhood, in isolation. I don't know that these secrets have come up, even though she's one of the most documented individuals on the internet. All that aside, I see that there's a very good possibility that we're going to hear about stuff that happened in Christine's childhood that built up to this. It can be about education, but in this case, this is about secrets that started out in childhood, that started out in isolation, right? That I did not get the feeling that the Chandlers were the kind of people to have dinner parties all the time, right? They didn't really invite people over. They were fairly isolated individuals. And I see that leading up to this situation where Christine has a whole lot of security. Like she's all wrapped up in the comfort that having a more masculine identity provided, right? Think about how close she was to Bob Chandler, her dad, right? Think about how close she was to that. And of course, she's going to take away some characteristics away from what she admires, right? Keep in mind that we all have balances of masculine and feminine, regardless of our gender identity, regardless of we're non-binary, trans, or cisgender. We all have our internal balances. Now, that's what led up to the situation. Here is the situation as it happened, what led up to this. Now, here's what's going on in the future. This is about Barbara. Yeah, Spirit is saying that this is about Barbara and about... she may pass away in the near future. Knocking on wood. She may pass away in the near future. Relatively near future. She may not get to see she may not get to see the whole trial play out. Or I don't know that she'll even be there, to be honest, right? But she may not be alive to see the whole trial play out. That's interesting. This is not about Christine herself. I'm asking Spirit. Barbara, Christine, and this is definitely about Barbara in this particular case. We had talked about the whip leading this discussion, and that's about abuse, right? That had come up in my January reading. I saw that abuse was part of Christine's story, and originally I had thought that Barbara was abusing Christine, not the other way around. Now I can see that we've had some really long-term abuse, unfortunately. This has been going on for a while. The anchor is about us the ship hanging out in a bay for a little while, and I see that's what's going on here. I also see that opening us up to cycles that Christine was taking lightheartedly, right? Again, I believe that she thinks on the level of a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, right? She processes the world. She has the emotional intelligence of a 7 to 8 to 9-year-old kid, right? And even not that much of a mature 7 to 8 to 9-year-old kid. But I see her taking these cycles lightheartedly. It's opening her up to situations that She could not possibly imagine shaking things up, and yet lo and behold, that is exactly what happened, right? She would have had some warning about this if she had asked, right? There is someone who could have said, wait, don't do this, no. Cycles. Again, I'm just like, these are deeply, I want you to think about an albatross around your neck, a dead albatross around the neck, so to speak, or an extremely heavy piece of jewelry, right? And this is just, it was a horribly heavy burden, possibly fueled partly by, I do remember Christine saying, God led me to this, or God allowed this to happen, something to that effect, right? Unfortunately, I feel like Christine may have been justifying some of this behavior, some of this lighthearted. She knew this was wrong, right? At the end of the day, she knew that this was wrong, and I see her justifying this. I see this restraining order that I talked about, this protection order, coming in a whole lot sooner than any of us had expected, Christine included, right? I did that reading in January of this year, and everything kind of exploded. Was it July or something like that? I stepped away. It was just a lot to process for me. I think it was a lot to process for anyone who had been following following Gino Samuel's documentary, that kind of thing. So I want to take a look at the next row. The bouquet is about the social circumstances that may have led down, and I do see confusing social circumstances, right? And these would have been valuable social situations to have. I had discussed in in her astrological chart reading how social circumstances would be difficult for her, but that she would still need to work hard on interacting with people, because that was really the lesson that she needed to take away. She had lessons to learn from social circumstances. These would have been valuable for her. On the other hand, we see that her isolation, her chasing a particular thing, is really what distracted her, what set everything off. These kinds of social circumstances would have been beneficial, but there was a point of no return. Unfortunately, I can see in this situation. This side is saying, that's it, right? She's chased this situation for long enough. She's the dog who got the car that it wanted, right? She got her car, and now these social situations that she was in the past aren't helping her anymore. You know, I said valuable. This is also about finances. The fish card is also about finances, what we find valuable. And this would tie back to Null from Kiwi Farms. There were people who were trying to help her, and it felt like she just flat out refused help at a certain point, right? She said, I'm going to do what Christine is going to do, and I am your blue goddess, and to hell with all of you, right? Yeah, as you can see, the scythe is pointing towards the fish, towards the clouds, towards the bouquet. It's all just too confusing. I want this, is what I get the feeling. Christine is saying, all this social stuff outside of my mom and my home is so confusing. I'm going to focus single-mindedly on mom. Yuck. It's what Spirit is saying. With the moon and the birds and the sun, well, that is unfortunately dramatic gossip about what was going on underneath the scenes. We're going to be seeing a light on this whole situation, unfortunately, right? With these court cases in the future. Barbara's not going to make it. We're going to see how in the future this protection order really moved things a lot forward very quickly. It was a heavy burden very, very quickly. Maybe not for Christine, right? She had to be arrested in order for it to be. You know what? This is the protection order and the arrest record, the arrest form, whatever got filled out. We had a sudden stop, a very quick stop to something that had been going on for a while. But with this right here, I see the gossip is going to be never ending. As this court case, as the trial proceeds, we're going to get a lot of information again about these secrets that developed in childhood, in isolation, right? We're going to be hearing about this, quite possibly, allegedly, for entertainment purposes only. We might be hearing about this in the future in the trial, right? We're going to be talking about this. This is about a dramatic, messy situation. You never think about clean birds, do you? They're, by nature, very, very messy creatures. And that's kind of what I see this situation as evolving, right? All these messy creatures, this gossip is absolutely going to surface everything that was hidden, right? The moon only shows up because the sun is transiting along with it, making it glow, right? Or the moon is reflecting the sun. So in this case, the moon is kind of going to go away, is what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to translate. And the sun is going to be shining on the whole situation. We're going to be hearing a lot more about this, maybe. Okay? Bottom row down here, we're looking at more information on the choices. We're talking about selfishness, right? Christine is her own worst enemy in this particular case, right? And that's what led up. Part of what led up to this situation is that she was absolutely her own worst enemy, that she's consistently made choices that have shot herself in the foot. She didn't have to make these choices, and she knows that they're wrong, right? She was very secretive when she was talking to people at first, like saying, hey, I don't want to talk about this too much. She was definitely hedging, in the way that a 7, 8, 9-year-old would. Mentally speaking, with the libido of a fully grown adult. Here we have in the cards of fate. She is her own worst enemy in this case. This is a journey that she had no control over. When I see the bear next to the journey, you might try to steer the ship, so to speak, but ultimately at the end of the day, the water and the wind will determine where you go. Christine is her own worst enemy, and in that case, she kind of set up her own journey. She made her bed, and now she has to kind of sleep in it, is what I'm seeing here, right? She didn't have to make it so that she couldn't steer her ship anymore, right? But her stubbornness, her willingness to manipulate and be selfish at the end of the day is what's causing this, what led up to this. Now, in the future, I think this is interesting. The public is going to have some compassion for her, right? They are going to see that, oh my goodness, you're famous. And unfortunately, I do see her becoming more famous and getting public affection, getting public sympathy, compassion as a result of this. Oh, you had such a difficult life leading up to this. We had just no idea, right? And here we're talking about it. This is kind of a bless your heart situation. In Texas, you can use bless your heart as a way to kind of condescend to someone, and there is a little bit of that bless your heart condensation going on right here. But I do see some compassion. Possibly people are going to be sending her some toys, some games, while she's in prison or jail or whatever they send her to. I don't know what's going to be happening there. There's a lot in this grand tableau that you could really go into. I feel gross. I gotta be honest, right? You could do 9 card readings about all of this stuff if you really, really wanted to dig deep. I feel like with each of the rows, with talking about the heart of the situation with the cards of fate, that those are pretty much all the details that we should get into here. For me personally, for my sanity, this has been a really gross ride, and I should say, I don't know if I've already said it, but if I haven't, after I'm done with this video, I'm not touching Chris Chan again, even if something happens to her in the future. This is it. This has been pretty gross. Okay, let me clean up my cards, and then we're going to transition into my other two questions. So the next question I wanted to ask is, in addition to Christine's legal issues, what other events does she have to look forward to / watch out for in the future? And when I asked this question of my tarot cards, the Wildwood jumped out. Now, I freaking love the Wildwood deck. It spoke to me at a very early point in my tarot journey, and I don't know, it just speaks to me on a very fundamental level, right? I think that it's partly like, my family's from Ireland, Germany, Scotland, that kind of area, so I think it kind of makes sense that it would pop out to me personally. It's known for being kind of a harsh deck. It does not use reversals. The creators did not intend reversals to be used. They don't, but they do say that, you know, some of our viewers do. I choose not to use them. I believe that the messages are often harsh enough without needing reversals. Spirit's saying no more shuffling. Okay, so I'm not going to shuffle anymore. I am going to take a look at this situation. What does she have coming up in addition to legal issues? Okay. Hope that you folks can see that. So this is about, she's got some difficult stuff coming up in the future, right? She's violated some traditions that we have in society, you know, such as not assaulting your mother who has dementia, right? She's violated these traditions, and now something's brewing. She's about to be transitioning into something else decently major in the future. This is the World card. 18, I believe, is the moon, so that would be about illusions. But there's also a little bit of the High Priestess mood going on in this particular card, the moon on water. This is, it may not show up on screen, I hope that it does, but there is an egg underneath this surface, right? So there's question of what's in the egg? What's going to hatch? There's some mystery here, right? The moon, again, we saw that in the Lenormand reading. What's hidden underneath the surface doesn't always appear very, very clear, even with a full moon night, right? But here we have a transition coming up. Let's have 3 more cards. Knight of Bows, that's, ooh. Interesting, okay. So I want you to think, when you think about bears, they're very cute, aren't they? I think that they're terribly cute. I love to watch videos of bears and their fat butts just wandering across forests, right? But they're not cuddly, right? The only cuddly bears are like the teddy bears, right? You can buy at the gift shop. I would not screw with these kinds of bears, and I feel like with it landing on the World card, the transition card, that this is a situation that is going to be very difficult to change for Christine, that this transition that she's headed to is going to be a bear of a situation. I suspect that this has tied to do with incarceration. Spirit is nodding her head. I think it's interesting that the sun appears on the moon, right? This would be about sunshiny success, But when it appears next to the fox, this is again about looking out for oneself first. This is about being very quick, very cunning, being manipulative, right? So it may be that she continues to use her manipulativeness to get nice things in the future in spite of her situation, right? She may do what she can to kick and scream against her situation, but is it going to do anything? I don't know how successful that's going to be, right? I think it's interesting. I remember when I was learning more about this deck, the manual says that the fox card can indicate something to do with gang violence. So it may be that in prison or jail, whichever she goes to, that she may confront some real violence that she's never had to confront before in her life. This might be an utterly new world card situation, an utterly new situation that she is absolutely really not equipped to deal with. Spirit is nodding her head. Yeah. 3 of Vessels. Okay, it's interesting that, with the card I said was get with gang violence. There's a 3, a group of 3. Interesting. Okay, so this might really tie to the compassionate side that the public may show her after a while in the future once all those secrets about what happened in the past come forward. Spirit, I feel like Spirit is indicating that these 3 storks appearing in this particular picture, the 3 of Cups, are Bob, Barbara, and Christine, right? With rebirth, I wonder if these aren't lessons that Christine is going to have to learn in the future. This has to do with her karmic debt. There is happiness, I don't know, in this lifetime, maybe in the next lifetime, right? Some people believe that you are born with the people you are in your lifetime over and over again until you folks learn the lessons that you need to together, right? Until you work off your karmic debt together. And I wonder that in the future that these folks won't be given, these spirits, these souls won't be given another chance to try again. Maybe. Spirit's saying yes. Reunion. Abundance and skill. I wonder if some of her fans in the future won't come together to work with her in some way, right? I don't know, like, again, Barbara's may pass away in the future. And it felt like her family was like, we don't want Christine anywhere near us, right? So I wonder if the people that, like Noel, for instance, I know that she was in contact with Gino Samuel. I wonder if these folks won't find a way to help her out while she is incarcerated, right? She's going to be all alone in there. I doubt that she doesn't have any friends that she's developed, real friends. She's not even cultivated friends with her family, right? Really, the only friends that she's gotten over the years are people who feel bad for her. And I'm feeling like that group of people is going to come together and talk a little bit more, and they're going to bring stuff to her, right? They might load up her internet card. I don't know if she's ever going to be allowed on the internet ever again, but they might load up her internet card. They might send her some food. They might send her some gifts, again, toys, games, that kind of thing. And they might help her develop skills that can use to defend herself again while incarcerated. I do see these skills doing something to defend herself against this incredible bear of a situation that she's put herself into, right? This is still her responsibility. I discussed her thinking on the level of a 7 to 9-year-old. She still knew stuff. She still knew this was wrong, okay? But I do see these people like Null, like Gino Samuel, coming together to kind of help her develop skills to cope with being incarcerated. It won't be like the happiest situation ever, but she's going to find, as weird as it sounds, I feel like she's going to find her own happiness in spite of this situation, right? Humans can get used to anything. Folks, I feel like that is about it for this reading. I want to move on to my other question really, really quickly. My last one was, if Christine was of the mind, how could she start working on her karmic debt? So, the Wildwood once again. Spirit says shuffle these guys back in. How can Christine start working on her karmic debt now? How can Christine start working on her karmic debt now? And we shuffle until Spirit says it's time to stop. More shuffling? Spirit says no more shuffling, so what can she do to start relieving her karmic debt right now? Getting quite a few cups. I'm feeling like, both in this reading and in the past, this is about her coming to emotional equilibrium. She is going, I'm hoping that, and I don't know if this will happen, but I'm hoping that while incarcerated, that there's going to be a child psychologist who is in a position to work with an adult child, right? I do see her finding some happiness if she finds new ways of doing things, right? A new creative fire. I do see that, interesting, Ace of Vessels and Ace of Bows pop up here. She can find deep happiness if she finds new ways of doing stuff and new ways of existing emotionally in the world, right? New ways of dealing, processing. I had discussed how she thinks on the level of a 7 to 9-year-old. This is about, hey, let's do new stuff. What can she do to relieve her karmic debt? That's interesting. We've already got the Ace of Arrows popping up here. A lot of aces is what I'm noticing. So new ways of thinking. As you're expanding your emotional intelligence, obviously that's going to take some new ways of thinking. And the Kingfisher, if you ever want to look up videos of that on YouTube, Kingfishers are fascinating birds. They hover up in the air and they look for targets in water, and when they do, they find their fish. They go swooping directly down, get their fish, and then fly back up, right? They're extremely focused little birds. But I'm seeing a new level of focus on some creative efforts for Christine while in prison. Maybe start writing the Sonichu comic again, right? Writing her Sonichu stuff again. Maybe writing Sonichu fan fiction, getting that back in, because I hear there's not much to do in prison, right? You kind of have to find your own entertainment if your family and friends aren't sending just a whole lot to you. I do see her finding a new attraction, a new love for this creative effort, whatever it may be, probably Sonichu, right? That's something that's been of deep comfort to her. And I see that continuing to be of deep comfort to her in a new situation that is just utterly unlike anything that she's had before, right? She's got some stuff to wrangle. Endurance. Yep. Lots of new stuff here, right? We've got Page of Arrows popping up here, and this is going to be about, hey, those new ideas, right? You've got a message like, this is winter dissolving gradually into spring, right? This will be one of the first birds that pop up. What do I know? I'm not a bird watcher or anything like that, but when birds pop up while there's still snow on the ground and things are melting, like spring is on its way, right? So she is going to have to learn some serious endurance, right? This happiness, these new ways of thinking, the new ways of thinking are going to earn her happiness and some endurance is what I see here. There are going to be the universe is going to be prying her open in the sense that the universe is going to be asking her to think a different way, right? We see that here and we see it again. Like Christine's been thinking this way, has been going through a mental winter, so to speak, and the universe is saying it's time to let all of that go and it's time to bring in a mental spring. She's been isolated with her family, her parents, and her mom now all of her life, isolated with those folks all of her life, and being around other people, even if incarcerated, is going to force her to be different, be in a different environment altogether. And I do see her being sad, mourning the old ways of life, right? Even in the midst of all these new emotional ventures, even in the midst of new creative energy, or being able to like really cleave onto Sonichu, leave and cleave, if you will, for Sonichu, there's still going to be that underlying current of mourning. She cannot go back home. I really don't feel like she is going to go back home. When I think about what's happening to her in the future, if she isn't incarcerated forever, I strongly suspect that her living family members are going to send her into a situation where she's going to be in like a group home. For instance, I don't believe that Christine is ever going to be on her own doing stuff. I just, she's about to be in her 40s, right? It's just, a lot of that stuff is just flat out too late. And again, she processes stuff, has the mental capacity of a 7 to 9-year-old. There's going to be some grief for the things that she lost. On the other hand, we all grieve when we lose things that we lose when we go through transitions. What did I just say? Transitions. What the heck? There it is, right? That's leaving stuff behind. This would be the Six of Swords, and this is the Six of Arrows in this case. Leaving stuff behind. There's Four Wands. And, okay, there's the Stag. The Stag is justice, old world justice. Leave aside the court system, law enforcement. This is past this. This is karma, right? Karma is celebrating this transition in Christine. Karma is saying this was overdue. High time. Karma is celebrating. We had talked about how she can relieve her karmic debt in this lifetime. She can transition into new ways of thinking, into new ways of living altogether, right? I do not feel like all hope is lost, even with this particular card. This can be a pretty harsh card, but in combination, I do see karma, the universe saying, oh my God, it's finally time, right? She can absolutely find new beginnings. I see quite a few new beginnings in this particular spread, in spite of her situation. I suspect that that's probably where the public is going to come in, where the public's compassion is going to come in and say, that sucks. You've been through a lot. And honestly, again, her astrological chart said that she would be through a lot in her lifetime, that people would do things to her for no reason. Folks, I'm getting the sensation that that is the end of this particular reading. And yeah, I'm feeling tired, right? This was not an easy reading to think about the situation, right? It feels gross. It is gross. Spirit is vigorously nodding her head and saying, this is gross. This was a gross, complex situation, but all hope is not lost. So, some new things have been happening around Four Wands divination, if you haven't noticed already. I have changed this into not just a channel to help me practice, but it is now a business. Spirit has been talking to me for a while about turning this into a thing where I give private readings, do spell work for people, that kind of thing. So it is finally time to do that kind of thing. If you would like to have a private reading with me, please visit my website, my brand new website, still kind of in construction, fourwandsdivination.com. I also have a new Instagram that is relatively new. I've been trying to focus on posts that will uplift the people who follow that particular profile. I'm sorry. I'm still relatively new. I'm still such a beginner to all this stuff, right? I'm still such a beginner to all this YouTube, video editing stuff, Instagram. I'm still very, very new to all this stuff. I've got an Instagram. That link is in my video channel. I'll also be sure to put it in my description down below. Also, if you don't feel like a reading is your thing just yet, a private reading from me is your thing just yet, but you want to say thank you and you have the ability to do a little bit of tipping, you can afford that. I've got a Venmo and a Cash App down below for you to donate if you see fit. I can talk, okay? Thank you so much for watching up to this point. I hope that you have a great day.